Welcome back to the Bit Beacon broadcast. It's episode 009 with
Rick Ravenheart
and Taylor. It's November 21st, 2023. We've got a brand new microphone. We're continuing to invest
brand new
in the podcast. I ordered it this morning and somehow it got here before we started recording.
To go with our new studio.
So I apologize if there's sound issues this week. We'll just kind of have to see how that goes and work with the new mic and figure things out. But the quality should be a lot better. You shouldn't be hearing as much white noise in the background anymore. So I hope it's better for you. So let's jump into our usual first topic. What have we been playing? What have we been buying? I forget. Did you go first last week or did I?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Why don't you just go?
Okay, I'll go first. I guess I'll go over some pickups, some new games I've purchased. One of these is a new game, and two of these are older releases. Not super old, but I did pick up the remake of Super Mario RPG. Notice they didn't put any kind of subtitle or anything for this, so this is now officially Super Mario RPG parentheses 2023.
Right. I really kind of don't like it when they do that.
Yeah, they did that with the Tomb Raider reboot.
Right.
Now it's always got this year next to its title to help people differentiate it.
That's how I feel about Mortal Kombat parentheses 9.
Yeah.
Really, you already have a title called that.
Right. So this is a remake of a Super Nintendo game. It's gotten really great reviews. People say it's super faithful.
It's a very iconic Super Nintendo game. A lot of people are playing that right now. A lot of people I hear are playing it.
Originally developed by Squaresoft, which is now known as Square Enix.
Fittingly.
Yeah. Because they merged with another company, Enix, a long time ago.
Right.
Or around the time, shortly after Kingdom Hearts 1 released. I think Kingdom Hearts 1 was the last Squaresoft release.
It was that era.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I haven't opened it yet, haven't started it yet, but this is a game I've been wanting to play for a long time, and now I have no excuse not to, and it's done a really good job of capturing the original aesthetic of the game. They keep the kind of squished, chibi, deformed look of all the characters, and I'm just excited to play a turn-based Mario game. I haven't played one in a really long time.
That's a good one.
Other pickups I got this week were kind of some Black Friday deals. I got the newer Mario plus Rabbids game, Sparks of Hope. This is the second Mario plus Rabbids game. This is a $60 game normally, but Black Friday they had it for $15, and so I couldn't say no. And this is the Cosmic Edition. They sold exclusively at Best Buy. And just
can you hold the?
Yeah,
there we go.
It has some bonus weapons or something like that aren't normally available in the game otherwise.
So is this a tactical turn-based thing?
Yes. So the Mario Rabbids series came out, I think the first one came out the first or second year of the Switch's life.
Right.
And it's a tactic style game. It's not grid-based though. You have sort of wherever you start, you kind of have a tether. And you can only go as far as the tether sort of allows you to go.
Within cells or no?
I'm sure there's invisible cells, but they're not visual to the player.
Got you. The one that I played, what is it? Mario vs. Rabbids Kingdom Battle?
Yeah, that's the first Mario Rabbids game. Yeah, so this is the sequel to that.
That one does have actual visible grids.
Okay. I think this one maybe loses the grids. I think it goes for more of a sort of a seamless look, but it still retains the same kind of gameplay. But so if you played the first one, then you know that it's kind of got a tactical cover-based sort of system as well. Hiding
behind cover is a big mechanic.
Yeah.
Really good really good game.
Yeah, better than it had any right being. You know,
Right.
people didn't have high hopes for the first Mario Rabbids game, and it ended up really surprising people.
It can get monotonous after a while, but like your first several hours, 3 worlds or so, it's just awesome.
I hear, yeah, and it's like challenging too. It's not like a walk in the park.
No, it is.
You actually have to be like strategic. You can't just mindlessly try to play it.
Right. That's very true.
I booted up the first Mario Rabbids game, and I got pulled away by some other new game release, so I never did totally finish it. I think I made it to maybe the second world before I got pulled away. It is something I want to get back to. Fun story.
Yeah.
At E3, it must have been 2018 or 2019. I kind of intended to bring the game. I brought the game with me, and I saw that Nintendo was promoting the DLC, the Donkey Kong DLC for the first Mario and Rabbids game, and the director and the number 2 on the game happened to be there at Nintendo's booth. So I waited off to the side until they came off stage and got them both to sign the game.
Cool.
I know that this game, apparently the sales were not nearly as good
as the first one.
Yeah, and there was some comment that they felt that maybe they should have held the game back for like Nintendo's next console.
Oh, okay.
And that it would have been a bigger success had they done that rather than release it now.
I guess that does make sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if we'll see another Mario and Rabbids game. I don't know that the game met Ubisoft's internal expectations. Because we should know this is developed and published by Ubisoft, not Nintendo. This is through an arrangement between the two of them.
Right. I mean, Nintendo, you could say it's licensed by Nintendo still.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of approval that this still goes through with Nintendo.
You wouldn't know from playing it, I'll say that.
Yeah, you really don't. I mean, one thing I've heard with the new game is that it leans more into the Rabbids stuff.
Oh, okay.
Than it does like the first game, which is largely set in like the world of Mario.
It feels very Mario with Rabbids.
Whereas this one is more like Mario inside Ubisoft's world of Rabbids.
Right. Which is technically Rayman.
Yeah. It's fun. They did like a DLC thing for this game, the newer Mario and Rabbids game, and I guess Rayman becomes a playable character through the DLC, which is about time.
About time.
You know, like I've always been so confused. Like, why do the Rabbids get so much attention?
Right. When it's Rayman franchise.
Exactly. I mean, Rayman is like a classic platformer. It's the French's Mario, essentially. Right. You know. I'm a fan of Rayman.
Yeah,
big time.
Rayman is awesome.
Yeah.
Goes way back.
And then the other thing I picked up for Black Friday was I got Everybody 1-2 Switch. So this is a Nintendo published party game.
Okay.
GameStop had it for $10, and I still had my $5 Pro coupon.
Okay.
So I was like, you know what? For $5, I will pick this up finally. It came out earlier this year. It is not good, from what I've heard.
Is it developed by Nintendo?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Developed by a small internal team. There was a launch title for the Switch. Its name is escaping me, but I think it was just called Everybody Switch.
Okay.
Was the name. It was a launch title. It should have been a pack-in title, like Wii Sports was for the Wii.
Gotcha.
But they charged like full price for it.
Oh, wow.
And it was like a collection of like a handful of party games, and they're entertaining for about 20 minutes, and then you're kind of like, okay,
Gotcha.
I've seen everything this has to offer. This game, my understanding is that like up to like 16 people can play at once using a smartphone. You like log into a website with a code that comes up on the Switch screen, and people can interact with it in different ways using phones and Joy-Cons and that kind of a thing.
Does it use like your Mii character associated with your Nintendo?
I think it's maybe there's an option to do that, but I think you can just easily play. You just punch in your name and then your name will appear.
Gotcha.
There's other party games that use that kind of a thing with the phone technology.
What do the characters look like or anything?
I mean, it's a bunch of humans on the cover. I don't know that like each player is represented by a character on the screen. I mean, you can kind of see from these screenshots on the back here. There's like a mixture of graphics and like real people featured.
Okay. These look like just like the TV games, like what is it called, Pinhole or whatever, the cornhole.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
like, those regular party.
Yeah.
Like in television, Amico looking stuff.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, for $5, I was like, you know what? It's a first-party Nintendo published title.
Mm-hmm.
How can I say no to $5?
No, it's a good pick.
Yeah. And what have I been playing? I finished Mario Wonder.
Okay.
Well, when I say finished, I mean I beat the story and I saw the credits.
Yeah, be careful.
I didn't 100% the game.
All right.
I beat all of the standard levels and I collected all of the Wonder Seeds in every single level.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a secret world that you can access through certain points in the individual world levels.
Okay.
And they just have like the really challenging, hard 2D Mario.
The you dare to play levels.
Yeah, and I was just like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I saw the credits. I think I'm good. So real quick, I was talking about the final world of the game is basically like Bowser's castle, and it's not so much Bowser's castle. It's more like Bowser is a castle.
Okay.
Like he's like become he's embodied a castle. So he's like a castle with a giant talking head on it.
Interesting.
But there's sort of like a gauntlet of like 4 or so levels before you get to him, and then when you go into the final level, it's just completely a boss battle.
Mm-hmm.
And the boss battle it's one of those boss battles where you use like everything you've learned like through the whole course of the game to kind of like defeat him.
Mm-hmm.
All the variety of power-ups, all those kinds of things. So it's a nice like yes, I know what I'm doing now, kind of a thing.
Right. Like you're putting all of the learned mechanics to the test.
Yeah. And I would say it is hard, but the game constantly it throws power-ups at you every couple minutes. Mm-hmm. So like even if you get like minied,
don't the new Mario games also throw you like an invincibility star if you've died 3 times or something like that?
No, nothing like that in this game.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's there you can see other people playing if you have the asynchronous multiplayer thing turned on.
Okay.
So like you can kind of help each other out that way.
You talked about like the signposts and stuff.
Yeah, I can't remember if there were signposts during the boss, but if you see people also doing the battle, you can kind of link like you can make your little ghost float over to them and they'll like revive you kind of a thing.
Right.
I think I will revisit the game down the line playing one of the other characters that like control a little differently. Like I think it would be interesting to try it with Yoshi. Mm-hmm. But for now I've just kind of moved on with the game. I do want to say the credits are like an interactive kind of credits.
Okay.
Which are like the best kind,
like
everybody loves
Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, Super Smash Brothers. Super Smash Brothers Melee has like one of the best interactive credits.
Kid Icarus Uprising also have.
All of Sakurai's games have interactive credits, But these ones were really good. I enjoyed them a lot. Great music. I'm obsessed with credits. I love watching credits. Well, some games I don't, because some games put like everybody and their mom in the credits.
Right.
It's like the receptionist.
Everybody who's employed by that company.
Like the entire Ubisoft games are notorious for this. Mm-hmm. Their credits, I'm not joking, are 30 plus minutes long.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, they just list the groundskeeper and everyone who's employed.
That's cool, but it's like you're like naming people who had nothing to do with
that product.
Like they don't even work at that studio. They work at like a different studio in a different part of the world, working on a different game
in a different country.
Yeah, that I don't understand at all. Yeah. I've noticed a lot of games have a thing where you hold down X and it'll like fast forward through the credits, or you can even just like press start and it'll like skip. Some games, like an Ubisoft game, yeah, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I
Right.
think I'm good. I'll do the fast forward thing. I try not to skip credits if I can,
Hmm.
but yeah, if it has a fast forward option, I do sometimes
You
take
can
advantage of
read
that.
fast.
Yeah, and a lot of games now just have the credits accessible before you've even beaten
I've
the game.
noticed that before. Yeah.
I think that's kind of a good thing because
Mhm.
then if someone wants to like cite that they're in the credits of the game, like if a potential employer wants to check if that's actually true.
Yeah, it is a good thing because
They can
there are
access
people
it.
who need to reference that.
Yeah,
You know, I've noticed that like in the options menu or the extras menu of games,
yeah,
there's an option to view the credits, which I appreciate that
yeah.
too.
I mean, I don't know, like for like Mario Wonder, like the way the credits are, they're interact. It's almost like a treat for having beaten the game.
Right.
You know,
As it should be.
right. So it's like on one hand, it's like yeah, it's good that they're there, but it's maybe almost like they should have two versions of the credits. They should have like the one that plays at the end of the game,
Mhm.
and then just like a text list,
Informational.
yeah, that you can just like scroll through at your leisure.
Right.
Aside from that, I have started playing Final Fantasy II,
Okay.
Dawn of Souls version on my, so it's a Game Boy Advance game on my Analog Pocket.
I noticed it was out there on the couch.
Yeah, it's something I have been wanting to get around to for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I booted up my cartridge and I saw my completed Final Fantasy 1 save file and I was like, it's time to do Final Fantasy 2.
Have you played any of Final Fantasy 2 before?
Prior to this, I think the only thing I ever did was like right after I finished Final Fantasy 1, like we're talking
like
20 years ago
yeah,
now.
I remember when this came out.
Yeah, I think it was like freshman or sophomore year of high school, I want to say.
We were like 14 and that would have been 2004.
I was playing it. I went to Maui with my dad and my stepmom and my siblings for Christmas, and I brought that game with me, and that was what I was like playing in my downtime. And I think I even brought the Nintendo official guide.
Mm-hmm. This is
game.
actually the first Final Fantasy that has like a named main character who's
Right.
an actual character that they built.
I think so far it's Firion.
Is that his name?
That's the main
I
character,
can't
and then you have Maria, and then Guy.
Right. I remember Guy.
Yeah.
It's coming back.
Now, Final Fantasy II is weird.
Mm-hmm.
You don't level up in this game.
Right.
The way you increase your stats is by attacking with certain weapons, using magic, taking damage. So if like you want to increase your HP, you have to take damage.
Right.
So like what you end up finding yourself doing is like using your spellcaster to cast offensive spells on the whole party to like help get your like HP levels up.
Right.
It's kind of it does away with grinding, but not really, because gold, or gil I should say, the currency in the game is really important. You got to constantly be upgrading to new
Right.
armor sets.
It's especially important in those early Final Fantasies.
Yeah. And so it's kind of bizarre. It's like, well, I still have to do all the grinding I would have normally done.
Mhm.
And now I have to like sort of micromanage these like stat gains for each character in
Yeah.
my head. It seems a little backwards. I get what they were trying to do. They wanted to like, well, players are just grinding levels and getting really powerful. So maybe we should try to do something different and cool
Mhm.
to make it work differently. I don't know if they ever use this method again in Final Fantasy.
They traditionally, if you've noticed, every Final Fantasy installment has a different leveling, mastering skills mechanic. You know, the way you do it in... I think this is the only time where you don't actually gain EXP.
Yeah. I'm not hearing that awesome da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right. It just doesn't work that way in this game.
Yeah.
But every single one of them has like a different main mechanic with how
Yes,
your
they're
party
all
grows.
unique for sure. I mean, Final Fantasy 1 is the most straightforward
Right.
of them all.
Well, it's the first.
Yeah.
It's what set that up.
So it's like I really enjoyed the first Final Fantasy.
Mhm.
I mean, Final Fantasy 16 is also, you level up and you get stat gains, And
Right.
of course there's equipment, and of course there's like abilities that you can increase their power with like skill points, that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like it was pretty straightforward. Like
Right.
it wasn't like I had to think backwards to like get it to work.
I
Where I'm
can't.
kind of sort of having to think backwards with Final Fantasy 2. Not that I'm complaining though. I'm
Right.
actually enjoying my
It's-
time at the game.
Yeah, I appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite leveling or growth mechanic,
Right.
of all of them, but I like that they started shifting stuff.
Immediately they
Yeah.
were like, let's try something different.
Right.
Rather than like
I can't remember which one. I think it was 4. You have to equip, in addition to leveling, you have to equip different weapons and armor and stuff like that, accessories. Each one of them has a different, like, bonus once you mastered it. So you have to gain experience with that stuff equipped.
okay.
Equipped.
Equipped?
And then you master that items, and you get its, like, benefit.
Hold on, I need to add that to the Rictionary real quick.
The Rictionary. We started that a long time
Yeah.
ago. But yeah, so you get like items benefits after
Okay.
mastering them,
Interesting. Okay.
like
yeah.
permanently.
Right.
That's just an
That kind of reminds me of Lost Odyssey.
Well,
Kinda
Lost
has-
Odyssey
Lost
does
Odyssey,
that.
Excuse me.
I'm pretty sure Lost Odyssey
Sakaguchi.
Sakaguchi took inspiration from a number of his Final Fantasy
Right.
games.
Definitely. So yeah, I'm not too far in. It has been pretty grindy so far. I've only just done like my first dungeon that had like multiple like basement floor kind of things.
Right, keys and stuff.
Yeah. So I haven't done too much yet. The enemy variety so far is like really low. I'm encountering the same enemies that I encountered like right outside of the starting town.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know when like it's gonna get more challenging. Because
might-
most of the enemies only have like
Yeah.
40 to like 60 HP so far, and I'm one-shotting most of them.
So
I know the first boss that I did fight was like the first. I wouldn't really call it a challenge, but it was like it did do significant damage. When he attacked one of my players, it did take like a third of that like character's health.
right.
Yeah.
I know in addition to Dawn of Souls, the rest of them up to Final Fantasy 6, up to and including 6,
Yeah.
were all released on Game Boy Advance. And at some point I owned all of them.
Well, 3 wasn't.
3 was not, you're right.
3 was released on DS.
It was remade on DS.
Right. 4, 5, and 6 are all on GBA.
Right. But my point is I played them all and get them all confused now in my
Yeah.
head because they were all on the same system.
I own Final Fantasy 6 on Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
So I do want to play it there, I think.
That's an iconic one.
Now, I know with Final Fantasy VI on Game Boy Advance, it was made before the backlit SP came out. So they messed up the color palette to like to work better with the unlit screen of the Game Boy Advance.
Right.
So you're essentially playing like a really washed out version of the game. I've heard that there are fan patches online that fix the color palettes,
Oh, okay.
so I could rip the ROM and then patch the ROM and then like load it onto one of my carts. So I may go that route to try to get like a more visually pleasing experience.
I didn't actually know about that.
Yeah, Dawn of Souls 1 and 2 came out much later in the GBA's lifespan where they don't have that problem. But I think Final Fantasy 5 and 6 on Game Boy Advance do have that issue.
Gotcha. Good to know. I didn't know that. I enjoy those games on Game Boy Advance, but I prefer to play them on consoles when I can. Like the PlayStation 1 compilation discs.
Yeah,
and stuff.
well I think the PS1 and the PSP versions of those games are like based on the Game Boy Advance versions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I think they are probably enhanced a little more.
I think Final Fantasy Origins, or was it?
That's what it is. The Origins collection is based on the GBA.
Okay. So there are 3 other compilation discs on PS1 that also feature, I know the first 2 at least.
Yeah.
Those had to have come out before Dawn of Souls for sure.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of just the PSP release.
Well,
that-
Origins was also on PS1.
Oh, okay.
And that one you're probably right about.
Okay.
I know. Actually, I saw them at Book Off. Final Fantasy 1 and 2 for PSP were like physical releases standalone for PSP, and that.
But they must have been the Japanese release or something?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it was.
Yeah.
They're in English, but
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know enough to speak definitively on what you saw.
Right.
But yeah, I've been enjoying playing Final Fantasy 2. I'm planning on finishing this, so that way I can say I've beat Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 16, and Final Fantasy 2. I really do think I want to play more. I want to go back and play a lot of the older Final Fantasy games.
That's a good way to be.
Yeah, I think it's kind of shameful.
Right. To just constantly keep moving forward with new games.
Yeah, I want to explore the old, and I have access to a bunch of them already, so it wouldn't cost me anything to go play them.
Right, exactly.
So why the heck not?
That's almost all I do, and occasionally I'll buy a new game.
Yeah.
You know me.
I think that about covers me so far. We're about 30 minutes in. So, Rick, what have you been buying?
So now with the PlayStation Portal in my hand, I have been flipping on my PS5 again.
Nice.
Playing Honkai Star Rail. I spent about 10 hours on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dinking around.
Okay.
You know, not even really.
All right.
10 hours of hard.
After weeks of discussing Rick starting this game, it's finally happened.
I have done it. I've gotten up to, past the point of, your character being switchable, and
okay.
I used one of the void tickets that I had to bring in a new character already.
Okay.
I'm at the point still where I'm not going to be spending any money.
Okay.
That's subject to change if I feel differently about it.
Honestly, yeah, you don't really need to. Are you at the point where like most of the systems have now kind of unlocked?
Yes.
Like you can wish, or you can not wish. They call it warp.
Warp, yeah.
You can warp for characters now, right?
I've already done that a couple times.
So I mean, there's definitely. And then you get like the currency that you can convert into like warps, right?
Right. The credits, I think it's called, if I'm not mistaken, or is it?
They're like these little crystals.
Oh, you're right. I'm forgetting the term, but I know what you're talking about.
I'm forgetting the term right now. It's just embarrassing. So my question is, now there's like a new player warp where it's like you warp 40 times and then you're guaranteed to get like a 5-star character.
Okay.
Have you? You should be focusing all of your warps on that.
Got it. Okay.
So like whenever you get that currency, whenever you get like warp tickets from quests, and like I think right now the new patch just came out when you started playing. I think if you, like as you log in each day, they're giving like 1 to 2 like warp tickets.
Right.
Every day, and you have like the whole patch to log in like 7 or 8 times to get those 10 free tickets.
Okay.
So I do recommend you try to check in.
All the online service stuff was a little overwhelming at first to look at. I
mean, it's weird. There is no like multiplayer with this game,
right?
But you do have to be connected to the internet. Now, there is a component where you can essentially like borrow one of your friend's characters and like use them on your team for certain activities, certain repeatable activities.
Got it.
To like farm materials and things like that to upgrade your characters. So I did send you a friend request because I saw that you had.
Oh, okay.
So when you do that, you can start using the character I have set for like friend use.
Oh, that's what that is. I set some stuff up.
Okay.
I saw that page and just set it up.
Yeah.
It kind of explained that. Now it makes sense. Now that you explained it.
Yeah. Now, like if you're borrowing my character for certain activities, like it'll help you breeze through some of that stuff.
Got it.
And help you like more efficiently use your like energy allotment.
Okay. So what stands out to me the most is the battle system, which I do like. It's a straightforward turn-based RPG, which is something I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I like that I can now experience that in, modern technology fashion.
You don't see traditional turn-based games very much.
Not really.
Yeah. Everyone's trying to reinvent the wheel so much now.
I think obviously the Shin Megami Tensei games are still that way.
They are.
But aside from
Dragon Quest.
Yeah, Dragon Quest is still that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a few franchises that are still that way, but they're few and
But
far
we get a
between.
new Dragon Quest main series game like
Right,
once a decade now. So
right. So and Dragon Quest. Oh, I don't know. No, Star Ocean went real time.
yeah,
Star Ocean has always been real time. What am I talking about?
yeah,
But being able to play Honkai Star Rail, it's not anything like, it doesn't look and feel like Dragon Quest at all. It's
right,
in space. It's
right.
a space fantasy, which is just very different.
Have you left the space station yet?
No, I'm
Okay.
actually in the plaza area with all the researchers,
Oh,
running around
okay,
talking to
gotcha.
them, finding documents. I know that in the early areas of that space station, I missed a document. There was one point where you have to split and go left or right,
Mm-hmm.
and it turns out I just went the way that the story progression goes
Yeah.
and never went the other
Right,
way.
right.
And I'm still regretting that, still
You can
bugging
go
me.
back. You're not like
Oh,
blocked
really?
from revisiting that at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the game may trying to be lead you. So you're probably getting close to the point where you're going to board the Astral Express
Oh, right.
and you're going to head to your first destination.
There's already been talk of it.
Yeah.
And, the lady that I'm playing as at the moment
Uh-huh.
happens to be the commander or
Uh-huh.
the engineer or whatever, conductor
Okay.
of that.
Himiko,
Himiko, yeah.
just the red hair.
Yes.
Okay, so are have you obtained that character,
Uh,
or is it just like letting you use her?
it's
as
letting
part-
me use her as a trial character.
Oh,
at
okay,
the
gotcha.
moment. I want to obtain her. I obtained the other one with the pink hair, Astra or something.
Asta.
Asta.
Okay.
Um,
So you haven't got a 5-star. So yeah, you
No.
like I said, you want to focus your warps on. It probably had you use a warp as like a demonstration, like the first time
right.
you did
It
one.
did,
Like
it
it forced you into doing it.
Right.
But when you get to the point where you can use your warps, focus on that new player banner where it says 40 times and you're guaranteed a 5-star character.
Okay.
There's like a base roster of 5-star characters, and Himiko is one of them.
Okay.
So once you do your 40 warps, maybe you get lucky and you get her.
So one question I have is the star rating. Now obviously
There's
played-
only two. It's almost silly. You have 4-star characters and you have 5-star characters. There is no 1, 2, 3-star character.
Okay. Interesting.
So 4-star characters are not without their uses. There's some really good 4-star characters. But generally speaking, the 5-star characters are going to be more desirable. Now, not all characters are like damage dealing strong characters. Some of them act as support.
Right.
Some of them can be healers. Some of them can be shielders. There's like you can play. This is like an interesting. You're used to having a healer, right, in games.
Right.
This game, you can get away with not having a healer if you have like a shielder type of character who can provide like a shield buff to the whole party. So there's a lot of ways to play. The combat does get more involved over time.
Oh.
You definitely, it gets more challenging.
I mean, it's already fairly involved.
Yeah.
You have the ultimates. You have the other mechanics, the
and
skills,
then the basic attack.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have the type matchups and stuff like that. The strengths, weaknesses, weakness breaks,
Yeah.
all that kind of crazy
yeah.
stuff.
And then there's like damage over time characters. There's follow-up attack characters.
It's not the most, like, I don't want to say convoluted, but complex turn-based mechanics I've ever experienced.
No.
But it doesn't lack.
Right.
It doesn't feel
It's engaging.
right.
Eventually, if you play long enough, your characters will become well equipped and well developed that like you can run a lot of content on the auto mode.
Okay.
I think you hit L1. Some battles it's restricted. You can't do it if they're like story related.
Makes sense.
But for some like repeatable content and just like generic trash mobs out in the game, you can just kind of set it to auto and it'll play for you. Now the AI is not going to be as smart as a real player.
Obviously.
In some cases it is pretty smart. In other cases it's pretty dumb.
Right.
So you have to kind of overcompensate the AI's dumbness with like really geared up and beefed up characters. I'm at that point with a lot of the content in the game. I can run it on auto. But sometimes I just want to play. I don't want to just watch the game play.
Right, yeah.
Because I do find the combat fun.
Already noticed that the scope of the story looks pretty huge. Like
Oh
there's
yeah,
got to be a lot of
like you're talking about these documents that you're finding.
right.
Like this company, they go hard on lore,
Yeah.
like really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into reading like documents and books and things
Right.
inside the game, there is a lot of that there for you.
I like that they're collectible and you can read them anytime you want.
Exactly.
You don't have to stop what you're doing or
Yeah.
stop playing to
Right.
read a bunch of text. Now I have to talk about that kind of the elephant in the room, that being this a live service game.
Mm-hmm.
It's distracting. It's not there. It does kind of distract me a little bit, and it makes me feel like, whereas when I'm playing a Final Fantasy game, I go hard on completion. I go hard on getting every item,
Mm-hmm.
constantly thinking about my save file, etc. Here, there is no save file because you don't own the game.
Well, it's just always saving.
Right. But like it's just gonna go away,
Right.
and that sticks in your mind for me,
Sure.
at least. Like, and so I'm fighting myself constantly about.
If I can do anything to assuage your fears, it would be that, like, out of a lot of live service games, this is one I don't think you have to worry about it vanishing anytime soon.
I'm not worried
I have
about
a
it.
feeling that, like, they will come. If it gets to a point where they're like, okay, this game is run its course,
Mhm.
they'll make sure it wraps up.
Yeah.
Like, they're not just gonna, like, oh, the
Right.
game's over, we never saw the conclusion.
I understand all that, and I can see the passion that this developer puts into their games, Genshin Impact included. I'm not worried about it closing. When it closes, I'm worried about the fact that it does at some point,
Right.
and that plays with my mind as a completionist RPG
Right.
fantasy type of guy.
Yeah, this is one game where you will just have to let go. One thing I do wonder about both of these games,
Mhm.
more so Genshin Impact, is like when the game is done and they've like completed the story or whatever their end goal is for the game,
Mm-hmm.
they should convert it into an offline game.
Yeah,
Like
they
there is
definitely should.
an immense amount of content. They could charge $60 for the experience at the end,
Mm-hmm.
continue to make money off the game.
Right.
And there have been occasions where live service games have made that tradition to like an offline version of the game before.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something I do hope to see happen
Hopefully they will.
with a game like
Genshin
this.
Impact is their first, right?
No, they have a mobile game and it's also available on PC called Honkai Impact Third.
Oh, right. I know Honkai was something that existed before.
Right. So like
this title.
Honkai Star Rail, well, all of Hoyoverse's games are set within an interconnected
Mhm.
universe. They've never like totally crossed each other's paths, but there are, if you're a lore fiend, like there's stuff that you can infer from one thing into another and can make connections.
Gotcha. It's it is very lore heavy. Being very lore heavy. I don't know if this is a me thing or if it's just people in general wrapping your head around everything in the beginning of the game.
I agree. I remember when I started Star Rail, I was like, whoa, there's so much like words that are just not
Right.
making any sense
Yeah,
to me.
and you don't retain it.
Yeah.
And it comes up later, and maybe you then remember it.
So when I really started caring about the story was when the players taken to the first like world
Mhm.
outside of the space station.
Okay.
Because each world has its own kind of self-contained story that you're like there to help with.
Okay.
And then there's little threads of like the main character's personal story kind of interwoven within the world story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I find that the individual world stories are like more digestible.
Right. Okay. That's interesting.
So yeah, I felt the same way. I remember like they're saying all these crazy words, and I was like, speaking a foreign language to me right now.
Right. It's good to know though that like it gets.
I think it gets better. I think it
Yeah.
gets a lot better.
Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more. Definitely, I'm liking it. I think it's fun. It's going to be a challenge for me to pull myself away and see this as just a fun hobby as an RPG. Not that all games aren't, but I'm not taking it seriously. Like,
Yeah, it's not possible to be a completionist.
yeah,
Like you would be
yeah.
bankrupting yourself.
Characters in particular, I'm not even like
All right.
considering that.
I don't
But
know
I'm
if-
just talking about like documents and all the.
You're right. I don't know if you've like looked at the character kind of information screen,
Mhm.
or like you see their equipment and things like that.
Right.
There's this section of like the character information screen called Eidolons.
Right.
Eidolls.
I saw that.
And there's like these like 6 circles that are like kind of grayed out.
Uh-huh.
And when you obtain like a duplicate of a character, it essentially gives you the item to like unlock that like node in their like character progression.
Okay.
And so that'll like enhance their abilities.
That's how you do that. I saw all these menus.
It's kind of like Fire Emblem Heroes, where if you get like a duplicate, you can kind of like feed it into
Convert it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's good to know.
But like that's the thing where people can get like trapped, where it's like because 5-star characters, they're like hard to get,
Mm-hmm.
and so now all of a sudden you get your new 5-star character.
Are all characters available in 5-star and 4-star, or are
No, some characters are only 4-star and some characters are 5-star. We
Okay.
have seen the case of a character who started out as 4-star has an alternate version of themselves, let's say,
Mhm.
for story reasons. That is a 5-star limited character.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So there are standard 5-star characters that you can always have the potential to get. And then there are limited 5-star characters that appear every patch.
Okay.
And then like once that limited 5-star has their 3 weeks in the sunshine, they get sent to the Disney Vault
Mhm.
for, however long until the developer decides to trot them out again and make them available.
Got it.
Kind of like Fire Emblem Heroes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, yeah. I have to do a lot of comparing it to Fire Emblem Heroes because that's kind of my experience with.
There's some similarities in terms of like character progression for sure
Right.
with Fire Emblem Heroes.
So looking forward to playing more Honkai Star Rail. The story seems really interesting, even though I'm not picking up on it completely yet.
Right.
But moving on to, I've been playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet: The Teal Mask. Started it finally because I was meaning to, but getting distracted with 7-star raids and mass outbreaks and stuff.
Okay.
Trying to catch up, Finally, I was just like, forget all that. I'm just gonna go start it.
Yes, it's
And-
time.
And I
Because you have less than a month now until the second DLC
Right.
comes out,
right.
and you're required to have beaten the main game and the first DLC in order to access the second DLC.
Makes sense. I'm pretty well into it now. I've done 2 of the signposts, saw the festival thing and everything. Actually found the 3rd signpost before I got to the 2nd signpost.
Have you been interacting with the photographer character yet?
Yeah, she's already off in the woods.
Okay, you haven't engaged with her yet.
Not yet.
Okay. She has like her little storyline and what like happens with her
It
is like
seems like it's going to lead to a Paradox Pokemon of Ursaluna.
I mean, I'm not gonna say what it is, but
Oh,
like
okay.
it's one of my favorite moments of the DLC.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it leads to a cool, surprising thing. So I hope I would say put off the 3rd signpost, go do that before you continue the
okay.
rest of the story.
All right. Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Like it doesn't impact the story in any way. It's just kind of a side quest sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I'm loving that I can just catch anything and feed it a rare candy and just evolve it
Yeah.
because everything's like level 60.
Right.
It's great.
I know. Right?
I love
So
that.
it's like Hound Hour. Okay, here you go.
Right. And completing the Pokedex is pretty easy that way. You just catch. I'm kind of doing a living Pokedex with this for whatever reason. I
Okay.
decided to do that. Just the Pokemon that are new
Right.
to.
Yeah, I caught most of them before And then when I finished the DLC, I figured out which ones I was missing, and then I just transferred over those last 5 from home or whatever, just to have the complete Pokedex. But yeah, I did the same thing. I was catching everything new. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to just transfer everything from home. That's boring.
Right.
Like, I want to engage with the content.
Exactly. Already found, like, I think 6 shinies.
Really? Yeah. Wow, that's great. Any new ones you needed?
I needed another shiny nose pass to get Probopass.
Okay. There's a fair amount of Gen 5 stuff in this DLC.
Right, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I did run into a Noctowl outbreak and did that real fast while I was doing the story stuff. That one I didn't have either.
Okay.
The rest are duplicates.
Okay.
But yeah, less than 5 minutes into the game, Shiny Poochyena just runs up to me. Like, just,
that feels good.
Yeah, oh yeah.
When you're not trying to find a shiny and you just come across one.
Walk into it.
It's like a natty shiny, you know?
It's even better when you have to look real close and then realize that you found one.
I mean, that's my least favorite.
Yeah.
Because then I'm just constantly paranoid that I'm running past shiny Pokemon.
Yeah, it scares you a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know you are.
Oh, yeah.
You are.
You just have to accept that it's happening now.
But I'm really into the vibe and the aesthetic. It's very contrast to Paldea.
Right. You're in like a Japanese...
It feels very Johto, you know.
It does, yeah. It's not set in an existing region. It's described as being its own little tiny region, essentially. Right. Kitakami. I know with DLC 2, it's set at this school that has this crazy underwater, like, fake biome thing.
It reminds me of something out of Sun and Moon when they had that research facility.
Yeah. So it's set off the coast of Unova, they've said, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So I'm expecting some Gen 5 cameos, and maybe, I mean, we can probably infer from that they're trying to hint that maybe Gen 5 remakes or sequels or prequels or whatever is coming next.
One of the characters mentioned, I can't remember if it was the school teacher, field trip leader girl, or if it was the photographer girl, but one of them mentioned they were from Unova, I think.
Yeah, that they're the Blueberry Academy.
They're all from Unova.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that in black and white?
No.
Okay.
This is something new.
Okay.
Like, that was never referred to. But yeah, the Academy is on that, like, artificial island that's been created off the coast.
Oh, okay. So that's how it's tied
Unova is the region from the Generation 5 games,
right,
which were largely based on the United States as a sort of an inspiration, specifically sort of the area surrounding New York City.
Right. Makes sense. Yep. But yeah, I'm loving that. It's going great. I haven't seen any new Pokemon yet. Any new Gen 9 Pokemon?
There's
aside
only
from
a handful.
Yeah, there's a big handful.
No, there's, well, you've seen the 3
just from trailers and from the, you know, story stuff. I know there's at least 4 new legendaries. I know about Driplin, and I know about the Matcha.
Oh yeah, Sinistra and
I can't.
Yeah,
I haven't
it's like the matcha version of Sinistea,
right?
Basically, and
is that it? Or
there's I know, play the photography thing.
Yeah, there's that one.
There's something there.
I know. There's something there.
There's nothing. So yeah, you have Diplin.
I don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, so you need an Applin.
Right.
Which you can catch in Kitakami.
What do you get it, or what do you give it for?
There's a specific vending machine you'll find in the game that has an item that you can get it to turn into Diplin.
Got it.
And Diplin is rumored, you know, I don't have a source or anything, but there's this person who's been right about a lot. It seems to be in the know for whatever reason about Pokemon developments.
Right.
Maybe they have someone who works in marketing or whatever.
Is this the same person that broke stuff about Goldango way back before Scarlet and Violet?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, supposedly Diplin is also maybe gonna evolve.
Right, and then they
maybe, yeah. I know I mentioned a rumor about like that Applin's 3 evolutions would converge on a single new Pokemon but have a different form for each one. I don't know if that's still the going rumor, but it seems to be definitely for sure that Diplin has an evolution.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll know for sure in about 3 weeks' time when the second DLC drops.
So
you need a couple extra shiny Applins now.
Yeah, I do, definitely. So that's about all I have for that. I'm loving it. Want to keep playing. I'm gonna keep playing. Actually got really hooked and spent way too long one particular day playing. But yeah, looking forward to the second DLC and looking forward to finishing this one.
Okay.
Real quick before...
Honestly, maybe one of the best stories in this DLC.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 characters that you're in, Kieran and... what's the girl's name?
Oh, Carmine?
Carmine. They're really good. Especially watch Kieran's character development.
Mm-hmm. I'm noticing he's already taken on the rival role a bit, and
I'm just going to say he might end up being one of the best rivals in Pokemon in a long time.
Really?
For years we've had these like very friendly rivals.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting to something a little more interesting.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So, he raised suspicions with me early on.
Yeah.
Because I'm good at foreshadowing these kinds of things, I guess. And yeah, he seems fixated on the ogre.
Ogerpon.
The Ogerpon, and just there's something going on with him.
Yeah.
I knew that.
I mean, by the end of the DLC, it's almost like you're like, wow, I feel bad for this guy.
Yeah.
Because he just keeps getting the shaft, man. And yeah, there's almost like a little like post, not really, there's no credits for the DLC, but there's sort of like after the story's concluded, you're kind of given like a little peek at what's going on inside his head.
In the beginning, when you first choose what partner you're going to go with in the story, I was thinking that if I selected no to battle him, I would get Carmine.
Okay.
That's not the case?
I don't think. I think no matter what, you still end up having to battle him.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, great stuff. So I just real quick recently purchased something, not a game, but I was at TJ Maxx, actually.
TJ Maxx.
TJ Maxx.
My boy shops at TJ Maxx.
Underrated store. I mean...
You're not a Ross guy, you're more of a TJ Maxx guy?
I like Ross, too.
Oh, okay.
This is actually the first time I've ever been to a TJ Maxx.
All right.
Or at least that I can remember.
So this has been a really good experience for you.
Just something I happened to grab while there.
Okay.
These drinking glasses, I saw them. They were $4.99, so I grabbed them.
Okay, so what we're seeing here are like pint glasses, essentially. One of them is Super Mario, and it's got like the underwater level with all the cheeps and bloopers.
Yep, old like Super Mario. I think that's Super Mario Brothers 1.
Yeah, it's the OG.
Yeah. It
looks very cool. World 2-2, it says at the top.
Yep.
And then we've got another one here that has the PlayStation logo and then the triangle, circle, X, square.
Yep.
Or cross, I should say.
Cross.
The official designation is cross.
You can't say X.
No.
That's a Nintendo button.
Oh, these are the boxes they came in.
I brought the boxes just to show you. Just show and tell.
Cheers.
Cheers. So how do you feel about this? I think it's a little cheap. I think it's a little...
Yeah.
Can't really dishwash it. These were put out by Paladone.
I mean, these look like they contain cancer.
Okay.
With this printing on the outside.
Right. Like, it's like a plastic...
Well, let's see right here. It says, not suitable for dishwasher and microwave use.
Right.
So...
Just meaning that this screen...
I would not drink or eat anything out of this.
Gotcha.
They make for a nice little display, a nice little dust collector.
Right.
Or the box, just leave them in the box maybe.
Yeah, I probably will. That's where they're going to go, is back in the box.
But yeah, yeah, definitely. You're right. Yeah, it looks like something got like heat glued to them or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like something got printed. I mean, the fact that they have a seam.
Exactly.
That like hurts it. That really screams like we didn't go all out for this
right.
one.
Yeah, this is a cheap product.
Yeah. But still cool.
And they were cheap. I just saw them as licensed products that I needed to have. But
imagine you need every single licensed product ever created.
I'm not that crazy. But when I do see something, I usually try to pick it up if it's like $4.99.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, that's not. I mean, that's the price of Everybody Want to Switch.
Right.
What I paid for it.
That's what you paid for. That's not the price of it.
Right. Well, for both, you could have gotten Everybody Want to Switch instead.
That's true. I could have. But I wasn't at GameStop.
No, you weren't. You were at TJ Maxx.
TJ Maxx.
And when at TJ Maxx, you take what you can get.
Right, exactly. But yeah, just something kind of interesting that I found.
I'm telling you, though, there's definitely a Prop 65 warning on that.
Oh, I imagine. I'm not using them. They're going back in the box.
Put them back in the box.
Which is then going to go in another box.
Exactly.
Which will then go in another box.
And then after you're dead, your friends and family will dump it into a bin.
Right.
And then it'll go to a wide
Unless
open
it's
space.
in a museum someday.
Yes, because your TJ Maxx.
That's right.
It's
part of video game history, technically.
Yeah.
You can't deny
You're going to need a real big building to hold all of video game history.
Oh, yeah.
So much merchandise.
It's a lot of merchandise. But yeah, just didn't buy anything else this week.
That's cool, though. All right, so we've been going for a bit. Just so you know, guys, this is intended to be hopefully a short episode, but maybe a little long. We're going to record 2 episodes today, we should mention.
Mm-hmm.
Rick's out of town next week.
Yep.
So we're going to do 2 back-to-back episodes. So if this one's a little long, I can promise you the first one will be short because we won't have anything to talk about when we're talking about games we've been playing.
Yep. You mean the next one will be short?
Yeah, the next one will be short. Episode 010.
Milestone episode.
Yeah, pre-recorded. Love
Pre-recorded. You gotta love the style.
Pre-recorded milestone episode.
Good stuff.
Just happened that way. But I want to talk about what I've been up to.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a pretty big event this past weekend. It was the Genshin Impact concert in Los Angeles, and I have some notes that I want to make sure I mention. So it was in Los Angeles at the Peacock Theater on November 19th. I got down into the area pretty early because the LA Auto Show was going on, and there was a Laker game that night, so I knew it was going to be a mess in downtown LA.
That's the kind of planner that you are. You look
Yes.
up what else is going on in the area.
Right, because I don't want to be the guy who's trying to show up 30 minutes before the concert starts
and trying to find parking.
And is SOL,
right.
and then they're an hour late to the show. I'm not that guy. I don't want to be that guy. That's embarrassing if you're that guy. No offense.
I'm none taken. I usually stick with you.
Okay, that's true, yeah. You give me crap for it sometimes.
I do.
When I get you there early, but...
Sometimes and it was pointless.
Yeah, sometimes it's pointless to get there as early as we do, but other times, it saves the day.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'd rather get there early and do what I want to do than get there late and not do it.
And the 9 times that it was pointless, is made up for by that
one time where we would have missed out on something extraordinary.
Exactly. I agree.
So yeah, the Genshin Impact concert. First, I want to say performances were wonderful. No complaints at all with that. It was a pretty long show, a lot longer than I expected. There were 2 intermissions.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. It started about 30 minutes late because they knew how many people had still not gotten into the theater yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the merch.
Oh, yeah.
There was merch, and a lot of people were prioritizing merch over the show itself. So this is my criticisms of this concert are mostly with the attendees.
Okay.
So I brought my girlfriend. We got in our seats. We got inside the theater shortly after 6 when doors opened. And we made sure to find our seats and, hang out there. Because, the concert's supposedly starting at 7. Didn't end up starting till almost 7:30.
Real quick, how long did it go total?
It started at 7:30 and it let out around 10 o'clock.
Wow.
So about 2.5 hours with 2 15-minute intermissions.
Gotcha.
And so when the concert finally began, I would say there was only about 60% of people in their seats.
Wow.
And so before the first intermission, there were so many people walking into the dark theater, trying to find their seats, interrupting people who were sitting there and enjoying the show and going, "Hi, what aisle is this?
Yeah.
You know, what number seat are you?"
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, are you guys for real? Do you have any idea how to behave? And meanwhile, they got all these like tchotchkes in their hands,
right? Yeah, all their merch.
And they're making all this noise with all the crap in their hands
Yeah.
because that's more important to them than being there and then interrupting people who are enjoying an orchestra show.
Right? Yeah, something classy,
high art.
These are the kinds of people that play the gotcha games like Genshin Impact.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think most of these people have probably never been to this kind of a show. Their parents have probably never tried to give them an appreciation for this kind of music. And I mean, even though it's the music that they love from the game, like I don't know if they think they're showing up to like a K-pop concert or something,
right?
You know, but this is not
Ariana Grande.
Yeah. So yeah, the merch people getting to their seats late. I mean, I saw people on their phones, like the lights were out and they're like playing Genshin Impact, like on their double screen phone, you know,
what?
Their foldable phone.
Oh wow!
I'm not even joking. The dude looked like he was in his 40s.
Oh my god!
And I was like, my girlfriend, she got out of her seat because he was across the aisle from us, like a few rows in front of us across the aisle, and we were sitting at the end of the aisle. And she gets up and goes over to him and is like, "I'm sorry, can you close your phone?" And he's got it at like max brightness too.
Wow.
You know. So yeah, that was like, it was crazy. Before the first intermission, it was just a nonstop barrage of people trying to find their seats. So the first like 40 minutes of the show were kind of, it got to a point where I just had to close my eyes and just listen to the music because there were so many visual distractions happening around me.
Oh my god.
That it really got in the way. Just because people didn't show up on time, they don't do research, they don't look into what's going on in downtown LA, or it was more important for them to buy a $35 t-shirt than it was to enjoy the music that they paid, $100 to go listen to.
Very, very much the wrong kind of art for the wrong kind of audience, it feels like.
I mean, and then there's a visual component to the concert too. Beyond the performers, there's like a big screen above the performers that plays like clips and things that are synchronized to the music, right?
Right.
We saw that at the Zelda 20th anniversary concert.
But people weren't sitting there playing Zelda while the thing's going on.
No, I mean, maybe there was someone, dude. We don't know.
Right, I mean...
But I happened to see someone playing Genshin. But people were like, oh my, like their favorite character came on screen.
Yeah.
Like you'd hear like the whole room like gasp.
Everyone's got to express
when their waifu or their husbando like appeared on the screen, you know. And when I say everybody, it wasn't everybody. You know, it's the vocal minority of people.
Right, but enough of them.
Enough of them that it impacts everyone's enjoyment.
To create a cohort of
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was like, stop squealing, people.
Right.
Like an anime fan on prom night, okay?
I hate it when people do that in the movies. Like in the theaters.
Yeah.
This is like a whole other level.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's like 100 people on stage performing for you. You don't make a noise.
Right.
Until the conductor, finishes the song.
Remember when the Zelda concert happened and then Nintendo made some opinion comments about it after the fact? One of their criticisms, or not criticisms, but one thing they mentioned was they didn't like the applause, that we were...
Some people were applauding too early.
Right.
Like, the song wasn't actually finished and people were, like, already clapping.
But that seems very tame compared to what you're describing.
I mean, thankfully there wasn't as much of that. People were pretty good about, like, waiting for the composer to, like, signal that the song had, like, been finished.
Right.
So that was nice. Because, there definitely were a couple moments where, like, the audience could have started applauding because they thought it would have been the end of the song, but they didn't. So I was grateful for that. I will say it did get way better. After the first intermission, there was not nearly as much, like nowhere near as much of like people like trying to find their seats and stuff like that. It was like the more acceptable kind that you would expect to see. You know, like you get an occasional person that's got to go run to the bathroom, they have an emergency or something.
Right. This is kind of, in a way, feels like the difference between what would be a mainstream title and what would be a niche title. I feel like with more of a niche title, events like this are just, I don't know, people are more educated. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, when you have something like Zelda, I mean, Genshin Impact, there's an argument to be made that it's big. Really,
it's
really
very big. It's like, very big. Like
it may not have the longevity of Zelda, but like it's probably in this moment equally as big as a Zelda franchise
in terms of like players and stuff.
Yeah,
like it's big. A lot of people play it.
So
I don't know if as many people play it as Fortnite or if it's comparable that way.
I'm not sure,
but it's feels as big as that.
You know, I really thought a lot of these problems could have been remedied by the venue. Why were they even letting people in while the performance was ongoing?
Right.
Like, I've been at places before where I leave the venue and I have to wait outside until there's a pause, there's an intermission, there's something like that going on.
Was that how the Kingdom Hearts concert was?
You know, for the Kingdom Hearts concert, I was sitting so up close to the front that like
there was
all of that was behind me.
Got
you know,
it.
So it's like I didn't, you know, it didn't even like phase me there. That's a good question. Yeah, I really don't have a good answer to that one because I bought the premium tickets for the Kingdom Hearts concert so I could meet Yoko Shimomura, the composer.
Gotcha. Oh, speaking of composers, was he there?
Yu Peng Chen was not there. There were no special guests. The composer actually became freelance just a month or two ago, so he's no longer working exclusively for them. So he's no longer an employee. You know, kind of like Final Fantasy's longtime composer also eventually went freelance, and he continues to do occasional music for the games, but largely he's not as involved as he used to be.
He usually in modern Final Fantasy titles does like a track for like the credits or something.
Yeah.
Or in the case of 15 when Sakaguchi had his little side quest that his team developed.
Yeah.
I think Uematsu scored that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because he did the music for Terra Battle.
Right.
So yeah, I do feel like the venue staff could have played a larger part in making that less of a problem, or only letting like one person or one group in like every, you know, minute or so, rather than just like hundreds of people all trying to find their seat at the same time and being really obnoxious about it.
Right. Just keeping the riffraff mitigated enough to not distract the real audience from enjoying the show.
So when it came to the concert itself, if I had any criticism of it, is that there was no MC, no master of ceremonies. There was no one kind of guiding the audience through it. It was just no one talking, just the conductor shows up on stage and the music begins.
Right. Usually there is some kind of dialogue with the audience.
Exactly. Whether it's the conductor or like someone else, they should have been there, like, now, you know, setting the mood, setting the scene, like getting people like in the right headspace, describing what we're about to experience, you know?
Right.
I feel like you usually see that at these kinds of things, so it was kind of a little confusing. And that was something I didn't really pick up on as much because I kind of knew what I was doing. But like my girlfriend, she watches me play all the time, but she was like, why didn't they have something like that? Even when we went to Nintendo Live in Seattle in September, at the Zelda orchestra concert we went to, even though it was only 45 minutes long, they had an MC, like, who wasn't a performer, wasn't the conductor, like guiding the audience through what was going on.
Like a presenter.
Yeah. You know, it was actually Victor Lucas, who was Tommy Tallarico's partner on that old G4 show.
Oh, wow. No way.
Yeah, so Victor Lucas was doing it, which is pretty cool.
The guy who did The actual work. The
Probably.
actual, the
Knowing
actual...
everything we know about Tommy Tallarico.
Right.
So, and my other criticism would be that there were no medleys, no new arrangements. Everything was just like the songs exactly.
Almost
from
like
the game.
like they were recording an album, like it was a sound test or sound recording.
Yeah, and so I guess it was fine, but like I wish that whoever was in charge of selecting the music maybe would have put in some extra effort to make some new compositions,
create a flow, and add
I mean, they did kind of theme the whole concert in 4 pieces, each focusing on one of the different like nations of the game that we've experienced so far. There's like 4 main regions we can explore. And so like it was like the first region for the first 30-40 minutes, and then so on and so forth. And the parts got a little smaller near the end. The 2 newer regions didn't have as much content as the first 3 regions did, which was a little disappointing. I mean, one of the regions just became available like 2 months ago, so that one I get. But I was confused why the 4th region didn't have more emphasis on it.
Right, got you. Were there programs? Did they give out programs?
No, there was no program, and I hoped maybe they would be selling it, but they didn't. But I'm glad you brought that up. Everybody did get something when you walked in. So this is something I'll probably have to try to scan or something, but I'm going to need a flatbed scanner for. It's this really nice premium like ticket holder with a souvenir ticket inside, and it has this really cool fake wax
stamp
seal on it, and it opens up, and Melodies of an Endless Journey is what it says on the inside, and then out comes this really nice ticket if you want to take a look at that.
That is really cool.
And if you look on the back, it's got like a holofoil finish to it.
I like that it's like perforated.
You could actually tear it if you were insane.
That's crazy. I'm sure plenty of people did.
Morons.
That is really cool. That deserves a high resolution scan.
Yeah, it is really nice. So yeah, I'm gonna maybe have to get my hands on a flatbed scanner. Maybe when I'm at work on a break or something, I can do that. And then one other thing everyone got. I won't take it out of the cellophane, but we all got this. You got like a code that you could redeem in the game for some of the premium currency, special glider that like all the characters can equip, like a furniture for your home thing that you can build and work on, a player name card, and some like in-game food that you can feed your character.
So was that 4 random items that you get, or is it the same ones for everyone? Or...
Yeah, everyone. These are only available at the concert. So if you bought a ticket to the concert, you get all this for free. You can also spend about $10 in game to unlock this content as well.
Okay.
So, but if you're going to the concert, you don't have to make that purchase in game, essentially.
That makes sense.
I mean, it's totally optional. None of it is like...
Right. It looks like a bunch of like accessories.
Mostly cosmetic stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Purely cosmetic. I mean, the premium currency is a nice little bonus. You know, it helps you pull more characters.
But it is kind of nice that if you didn't go to the concert, there's still a path to getting it.
Exactly.
Obviously, buying it as a microtransaction.
I mean, I had to pay, after fees, it was like $70 for one ticket.
So you did pay for that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I wanted to go to the show.
Right.
You know? This is a cool extra.
Right.
You know. But yeah, the concert, I mean, I might sound a little negative, but the concert was really, really good. I enjoyed the performances. The performers were great. There was one particular performer. I don't know what the well, I know what it's called, but I'm going to pronounce it wrong. It's like a guizong. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's like a Chinese instrument. It's like this like flatbed string instrument. And it has these little like triangles that she moves around to like make the strings go higher and down. Like that's how she kind of tunes it. And then she plays it with these little tabs that are like taped to her fingers,
like thimbles or something.
Almost, yeah. And it produces that really
twangy,
like kind of Asian twangy sound. That's that you
cool.
know. And so she got like a special little like moment to herself at the end of the show.
Like a solo.
Not a solo, but like, like where everyone's clapping just for her kind of a thing.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because I think it is a very specialized kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if she's traveling with the whole tour, because I don't think everyone has one of those on retainer,
Right, yeah. It's a very specialized niche instrument like that. Those specialists.
What was interesting is that it took sometimes she would have to reconfigure the instrument between each piece, and so there would be these 45 seconds of silence
while she does it,
and I was like, this would have been the perfect time to have the MC be talking about this next piece.
Was her tuning this thing part of the show in a way? Was there a light on her?
No, not at all.
Okay.
You could tell everyone was just kind of all right, we just wait because this instrument requires that tuning. And so, it's not something that can be done on the fly mid-song. Just that instrument demands that this time be given to her.
Right.
So, that was kind of a special experience because I don't think I've ever seen that instrument played live anywhere before.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
But I think we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
So we're back from our break, and today's actually kind of a special episode for us because we get to do an unboxing of new hardware from PlayStation, that being the PlayStation Portal. Now, I received my PlayStation Portal on the 15th, the actual launch date. You got yours just recently, right?
Yeah, I decided last minute. FOMO kind of got me. So I've got a brand new Portal right here on my lap in box.
It didn't have to do with any of my arguments for why the Portal.
I think if we had never done this podcast and we hadn't talked about it so much, I would have stuck to my guns, which were originally this is stupid. I want a real PlayStation Portable, not this Portal stuff. But I don't know, you kind of convinced me, and I just thought about how often my girlfriend would like the TV, right? And why not let me be the hero?
Right.
Give up that TV, and it's no big deal for me to keep playing remotely on something like this.
I'm enjoying having a Switchified PS5.
Yeah.
I like that both the PlayStation console and the Nintendo console currently, you can convert it to handheld and play it like a handheld. I'm loving it. I've spent about 10 to 15 hours or so, maybe a little more, playing so far on the Portal. You're going to get to experience it. Actually, we did play a little bit together.
Yeah, before we started recording, we checked out Rick's Portal, and I've got some thoughts.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they're anything that would make me want to return this, so I'm still going to open it with everyone here. I did go through the liberty of taking off the seal on the side, so we don't have to fiddle with that right now. But should I just jump into this?
Yeah, let's jump in.
All right, so it comes in this really nice... we're going to do this audibly. An audible unboxing. This might be the first of its kind. I don't know.
Starting a new trend.
So I'll describe it to you. It's this very rectangular box, like a hard rectangle.
Yes, very long rectangle.
Yeah. And it's got the Portal on the front. It shows Astro from Astro's Playroom, which is the pre-installed game that comes on every PS5.
Yep.
I don't really see anything that screams, you must have a PlayStation 5. I mean, it does have this, it says for PS5.
Right.
And in the corner it has these little symbols of Wi-Fi and a PlayStation 5, and it says required. But I could see someone uninformed walking into a store thinking this is the next PSP.
Right. Right. That's a good observation.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Sony's hoping that's what happens.
Yeah, possible.
People are like, "Well, you're out of luck. You bought it and opened it."
We did print it way back here, nice and small.
So let me pop this open. I'll, maybe those of you into, what is that, people like to listen to,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
not ambient noise, or...
It's got a name. I can't think of it.
Anyways, you can hear those
flaps.
Sounds flapping open. So I'm going to pull this out of the main box, and inside the kind of very thin outer box, we've got another box.
It just slides right out.
Okay. There's this little cardboard tab, or this piece that kind of protects the tab of this box. And I really like how the tab has the triangle, circle, cross, and square on it.
You get that right.
And on the outside of the box, it says it's remote player for PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, it's not called PlayStation Portal here.
Right. That is, yeah.
They call it the remote player.
That is weird.
It's like a sticker that they attach to the box. There's also some other stickers on the bottom of the box. Looks like your the contents and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that it has that classic Sony Interactive Entertainment, that old school PS1 logo you'd see when you boot up any game.
Yep.
Alright, so I'm going to pull on this little tab.
It comes out just like a drawer.
And now we've done with the outer, or the thick box that was inside.
And we have a cover.
We have kind of another box almost. We have a cover on top of the box that slid out of the other box. So in this box cover, doesn't have any stickers on it. It does have the PlayStation logo printed on this little top piece.
And all of these inner boxes are sort of a light gray, solid light gray color.
Very reminiscent of like PlayStation 1 gray.
Right.
Like, it is that color.
It is.
Like the original PlayStation 1 console. Okay, so I've now taken off the top cover of this box. And inside, I can see there's a USB-C cable. It looks like inside of a little box underneath the cover of the...
Just like sort of an attached compartment.
Yeah, I have so many USB-C cables, I'm just going to leave that one in there. I don't ever need to open that up. And then we've got inside of a protective sleeve the unit itself. So real quick, I'm just going to set the unit aside because there's a little more. There's a secret trap door at the bottom of the box.
Pull out another cover.
And it looks like it's the instruction manual for the PlayStation Portal, which I don't think I'll need. So I'm just going to put that back in there, slide the trap door back in.
All right.
And now we're going to get to the unit itself.
So it's coming out of this foam sleeve.
Yes.
And we have a cover on the screen.
Yeah, let me peel that off. Okay, we've got that peeled off.
Now what is on there?
Oh yeah, let's look at this little protective sticker. I think it's telling me to plug it into power. Oh no, it's saying you press it briefly to, I think, turn it on.
It's showing you where the power button is.
Okay, but then it shows like no time has passed on this clock. So you tap it, and then it says hold it down for like 5 seconds. To, I guess, like...
We assume those are seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it's a clock hand. And it's 5 seconds on the clock hand, or maybe 10 seconds, I'm not sure.
How do you know they're not minutes?
I mean, I can't imagine you need to hold the power button for multiple minutes. There's also some little signs on the top that kind of show you where the power button, where this connectivity button is, and the volume rocker.
Yeah, it's sort of mapping out the buttons that are on the edges of the console.
There's also a QR code that I guess brings up a digital version of the user guide.
Right.
Okay, so the unit itself, here it is. I mean, we have yours that's already pre-installed with like software updates and things like that.
Yep.
So
Already.
I'm going to plug this in and charge it so I can try it out on my own console later.
You're going to have some firmware updates, and then there's a second software update for PlayStation Link or something like that.
Okay, PlayStation Link is... because these don't have Bluetooth.
Right.
But they do have this new sort of proprietary connectivity thing. I think it's like a local internet kind of connectivity, like probably 2.5 gigahertz or something like that, where Sony's selling these new wireless headphones as well as earbuds for like $150 and $200.
Crazy.
And they'll be able to pair specifically with this, which to me, and I think they'll also pair with the PS5.
Okay.
But like that's all they're good for.
Right.
Is like this guy and the PS5.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
I can't imagine dropping $200 on earbuds
I'll wait.
that only connect to...
I'd love to have them, but I'll wait.
I mean, do you remember when you just had wired earbuds?
Yeah.
And they were $20?
I mean, they did us the favor of putting...
That's true. This does have an aux port
Yeah.
on it. So, I mean, you can use wired
Which
headphones.
modern phones don't have, so
Yeah,
I'm glad
which-
they did that.
I know, that's a tragedy in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to set my Portal aside. Let me plug it in so it can start charging. Okay, got that going. And let's have Rick kind of talk about he's been using it a lot more than me, so I'm gonna ask Rick to give us his thoughts on the Portal.
Yeah, so right away, it does take a little bit of effort to sync it up and stuff. It gives you a QR code, in fact, that you then use your phone to get signed into.
Oh, like the PlayStation app, right? Okay.
Right. And then once you're signed in, it's going to have you find your PS5 on the Wi-Fi after you've connected the internet, of course. And from there, you can just turn it on, and it actually... mine's actually connected right now, but it'll have this sort of screen where there's a portal. It shows a visual portal, and it... yeah, right there.
So even though Rick is at my house right now, we can still connect to his PS5 on my Wi-Fi.
Correct.
With his PlayStation Portal. So it seems like we're doing that right now.
We are doing that.
How's the volume? It shouldn't be too loud. I don't want to blow out the...
Yeah, so I'll actually turn it... I'll put it at halfway.
This is a trial run here, guys. If this sounds horrible, we'll never do this again. But
so it's right now the screen is playing this animated screen of like a bunch of stars and a portal in the middle of the screen while it says connecting to PS5 and my PS5's number.
Right, so I think because your PS5 is all the way in another city from where we're at right now.
I don't know how much that has a factor. I think really it's just booting up the system.
Right.
It does about this same amount of time.
Okay.
When I'm at home.
Okay.
But we're still waiting for it to connect to the PS5.
Well, let's just talk about your...
So, having played this already quite a bit, I'm very impressed with the screen's graphics. When you first boot it up and you first get connected, for about 10 to 15 seconds, the screen's actually pretty fuzzy. Don't let that frighten you. It's not going to look that way. After that initialization, it takes on this nice, crisp picture, and
yeah, the Portal's capable of a 1080, assuming the internet supports it. It can do up to a 1080p picture at 60 frames per second.
Yeah.
And the screen is capable of handling that.
I have not experienced any lag. Right now I got Final Fantasy 15 going on. But the game's not lagging. It feels 60 frames a second to me. And I'm actually pretty sensitive. I can usually recognize when there's a frame rate drop pretty quickly. It looks great. It looks just like my TV, except the screen is smaller, and it's just nice and crisp.
I mean, a TV is all about perspective, though. Depending on how far away you're sitting from the TV, determines how big the TV actually is.
Right. Right.
So if you're sitting far away from your TV, you want a big TV.
Right.
But if you're sitting close to your TV, you don't necessarily need a big TV.
This is true.
So this is a great size because it's not going to be more than 2 feet away from you or so.
Right, and from your face. So it
looks
not
big.
Yeah, it's not different than sitting.
I mean, this thing is big.
Yeah, it is.
It's wide.
It's wide. The screen is a nice size. I wouldn't want it to be bigger. I don't
think it's good. And the weight it feels light, pretty light. It has a good weight to it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel cheap.
Right.
But it also doesn't feel so heavy as well that you're like, oh my god, it's hard to hold this while I'm playing.
Right. It probably, I assume, has... I mean, there is still a computer there. It's still...
Yeah, I mean, this thing is an Android tablet, effectively. We know that from some documentation that you can access from the settings menu, and it's running a very custom firmware, and running the remote play APK of some kind probably.
So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and engage in a little bit of a battle here with some wild Arabas in Final Fantasy 15, just so we can see how. I'm turn the volume down a bit. Just so we can see how it kind of handles in a more resource-intensive scenario. So I'm just gonna go ahead and warp strike these Arabas till they're dead, and do some...
Arabas are like, they appear to be some kind of giraffe.
Yeah, they're like a giraffe with big curled ram horns.
So basically Rick is just being a bully right now.
Yeah, I'm just killing wildlife. Just doing some blind strikes from behind.
But I'll say, yeah, it looks pretty fluid. Like, I'm impressed.
So we're going to go ahead and change up the combat strategy a bit, just so we can see how it just handles in different scenarios. No lag yet. I haven't seen any stuttering, no issues. Just feels like a PS5 experience, or PS4 in this case.
Yeah, I don't think they ever released a PS5 version of this game.
Right. No, they haven't. Not that I know.
I will say, we're on an ideal connection right now. There's no one else in my house or my living area streaming on Netflix or anything like that right now. We have the internet all to ourselves just for this PS5 right now. But we should mention that this is not streaming within the same Wi-Fi connection. Like, we're pulling Rick's PS5 from 20 miles away.
Yeah. So
this is really impressive.
This is true remote play here.
Yeah.
And I should also mention that we are in an apartment complex where there's a lot of Wi-Fi getting sent around
and stuff. Yeah, it's solid. It works like you'd hope remote play would work.
Yes. Yeah. It feels great.
But now you actually have like a built-in DualSense controller.
Yeah.
You got all the haptics, all that kind of thing.
I really like the way that feels in my hands. Like, I love that it's got the grips of a controller. It's, I like the Joy-Cons on the Switch for their purpose.
Yeah, they're not, the ergonomics are nowhere near as good with the Joy-Cons.
Right. Yeah, sorry. The volume is...
Those Arbas are a little loud.
It comes up, yeah. It changes, so I turn it up and down.
Alright, well, when you have a second, you can pause that.
Just real quick, I'm gonna have...
Just gotta finish this battle,
I'm
guys.
gonna have Gladio use Impulse on these guys. Alright, that looked really good. It looks really good.
I mean, I wish it was an OLED screen. Because I can see that the viewing angle isn't as good. It does look like washed out like an LCD screen.
It does. The screen is also really reflective glass too. Yeah. So you really see your face a lot.
Yeah. So if there's a light behind you, or a light shining directly on your face.
So do you want to try?
I mean, I got to play around with it earlier, so I have some impressions.
All right.
Ooh,
so how do you feel about it? I took
some notes. Let me look at the... Okay, I really feel like it does feel really great. Like I said earlier, the weight is good. It's not too light, not too heavy. It's definitely big. It's definitely wide. I feel like I'd be scared to take this out of the home. There is no official like PlayStation released like carrying case or anything like that.
There are
there are some third-party ones that you can get out of China right now. I ordered one for Rick and myself, which you owe me $13.
Yeah, bro. I'll get to that.
So yeah, I mean, like for me, I think it's gonna mostly be used at home. I don't know that I would travel with this. Like, it's big.
It is big.
Yeah, like that would take up a huge chunk of space when like a hard travel case.
Well, I will for sure be taking it with me on my trip.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you are leaving next week, so
and which is going to be kind of a new experience too for us because I'll be able to play it in a different state and just see if there's any difference.
Report back. Yeah. I've heard that this thing won't connect to like hotel Wi-Fi.
Really?
Or like Wi-Fi that requires like an internet browser to open. And like accept the terms and conditions.
Okay.
Seems like a really big oversight on PlayStation's part. So I don't know if that's something they're hopefully going to be able to patch into the system.
Yeah, I mean when you're traveling, you're usually staying in a hotel.
Yeah. So, and most hotels require you to like sign into a website and like an agreement, punch in your room number or anything like that. So you won't be, if you're staying at a hotel on your trip, which I don't think you are.
No, I'm not. I'm staying with my mom.
Then yeah, you're kind of out of luck. That's something worth noting. If you're like someone who travels a lot for work and you're in hotel rooms a lot, unfortunately, this device is not going to work. I guess you could connect to the internet on your phone and then create like a mobile hotspot from their Wi-Fi and kind of get around it. But then you're just adding one more link in the chain.
Right. And yeah, all of that is streaming through your phone.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, if you're on the... I mean, yeah, you want to have your phone plugged in. Otherwise, it'll burn through your battery.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I read over the week. And... What were they thinking with the position of the charging port and the auxiliary port?
So I feel the same. I don't know why it's so the USB-C port is in the back, in the middle, underneath this sort of slanted lip.
Yeah,
that's going on, separating, I guess, the internals from the screen, and it just is the most inconvenient spot. If you're in the dark, good luck plugging this thing in.
Yeah, it's impossible. Like, you will need the light on, and you'll have to be really careful to make sure you don't scuff up the back of your portal with your power cable.
Right. Yeah, you will get all kinds of scratches and...
Yeah. You know, I mean, it might just be something you have to accept is going to happen.
Interesting. I'm almost tempted to, like, make a little sticker or something with a cutout just to protect that area.
Yeah, that might not be... Like, put a piece of tape, like, right here so you don't scratch that back area.
Right. Or just across here and then cut out a hole for the...
Right. Yeah, that whole area.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
We should
I got some painter's tape I could use.
And, you know, we have a few just kind of...
Okay, I want to talk about the controller feel. Like, yeah, it is like the DualSense controller.
Yes.
One thing I will say is, while it has the same feel as a DualSense, you don't hold, or at least I don't, hold the portal the same way I'd hold a DualSense controller. With a DualSense controller, I don't have the sides of the controller pushed all the way into my palm the way I kind of feel like I have to do with the portal.
Oh, okay.
Like, I kind of have like a more relaxed fit.
I see.
And when you're holding it like upwards like this, when you're looking at it, I feel like in order to really secure it, you have to get it all the way in your palms. And so maybe I just need to find a good position, but I feel like it has made like it's a little more challenging for me to access the buttons and the thumbsticks at the same time that I'm used to when I'm just holding a regular PS5 controller.
I haven't noticed that experience, but you might be right. That might affect me as well. I have noticed that sometimes using the D-pad doesn't feel as natural as it does.
Yeah, it's like when I usually have a DualSense controller in my hand, the PS5 controller, it's just in my lap. And like my hands are in my lap, and I'm holding it.
You have to hold it differently because the screen is there.
Right, so it's like I'm holding it more like this, like it's not pushed all the way up against the sides of my hand.
Right.
So it is a more relaxed control. Whereas with this, you want to hold the whole unit kind of up in front of your face. I mean, I guess you could have it in your lap and just look down at it.
So right. If you're sitting.
Yeah.
If you're laying, though.
Exactly. You're going to be holding it up.
Right. Now, what I've noticed, and maybe this is why I haven't noticed what you're noticing, I kind of hold it down here a little bit in my palms. So my thumbs and fingers reach the buttons a little differently.
Yeah, like I said, I think I might have to try to, when I finally get around to using mine, I'll have to, find a good comfortable place for me to rest it in my hand, because it feels a little funny. I've also noticed the sticks on the device, they have more give. Like they're much looser. Like they don't have as much resistance.
They don't have that snapback that the DualShock.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a little more resistance on the DualSense. It's like almost like these have been really broken in already.
Right. They're probably just a cheaper unit that they went with.
I know that they're smaller than the DualSense thumbsticks. They feel the same, but they're smaller. And the PlayStation VR 2 also has thumbsticks that are even smaller than this. So this is an in-between the thumbstick size of the PSVR 2 controllers and the DualSense controller, which is interesting. Kind of wonder why they just didn't
keep that all uniform.
Yeah. But I'm sure they had some reasoning. But overall, it looks nice.
Oh, it looks great.
And it looks like you're holding something out of the future.
Right.
Yeah.
And for the sake of the experience of playing on it, it does feel just like a handheld console. Like, it feels like you're playing a handheld console.
Yeah, assuming your connection stays stable and you don't have any issues with the streaming, you probably won't notice much of a difference.
Right. And so, I mean, this is a big staple, I feel like, in the direction that the industry is kind of headed with console hardware, with this versatility stuff that we keep talking about. Of course, Nintendo introduced that with the Switch. Now we see Sony following suit. They're not, obviously, the Switch plays it on, plays the game on the natively, locally. But I mean, Sony's bringing the same experience, assuming that you're.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the conditions do have to be right.
Right.
Like, there is going to be a time where, for whatever reason, your internet isn't going to be good enough, and you're going to end up getting, like, a 480p picture, and it's going to look like junk, and, it's just not going to be the ideal way to play in that moment. But, if you have reliable internet, this maybe is a good buy.
Yeah.
And, I didn't pay full price for this. I had a GameStop gift card, and I had enough points to knock $10 extra off, so I ended up getting it for about $160.
What's funny is that I paid nothing for mine, in fact. So, yeah.
You never got charged for it?
I got charged for it. The transaction stayed on my bank account, and on the 14th, I saw the money was back in my account and the transaction was gone. And then it arrived. And it's never been...
You've never been charged for it?
No, not a second time. Yeah.
So, Sony sent you a free PlayStation Portal.
They gave me 100% rebate for some reason.
You got a $200 gift.
Yeah.
Wow. Don't say anything. You shouldn't even be talking about it on this podcast.
I know.
Someone's going to find you, dude. Someone in accounting.
Yep. They'll find me. They'll identify my voice and come up with my PS5 ID.
Wow, dude. Then, shoot, maybe I should have pre-ordered it from the PlayStation. You know what's funny is I actually saw someone online saying they were in a similar situation as you.
Really?
Where their money was refunded to their account, and they hadn't heard anything about their order not shipping or shipping.
I started freaking out when it happened because I thought that either the device got delayed or, I just got knocked off.
For some reason, they didn't like your card and said, sorry, no.
Didn't like my shirt or something.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me you got an email saying that, like, your order's complete, thank you. And I was like, that sounds like everything's okay. It doesn't sound like your order's been canceled.
I was still concerned, though, because you get your money back and the transaction's gone. That usually...
I mean, at this point, it's been a week.
Yeah.
And you still
hasn't.
Still hasn't charged you?
They could do it again.
I don't know, dude. I think you slipped through the
I
cracks.
might have.
I think you won.
I hope I did.
That's $200 extra in your pocket.
Yeah.
Plus tax.
I mean, I was gonna pay $200 for it.
Right.
Wasn't anticipating getting it for free, but here we are.
Cool. So yeah, I have seen some reports online. People are comparing it to other similar devices at different price points, perhaps, but similar devices that can stream games. Now, some of these devices are just like handheld Windows PCs, essentially.
Right.
And there's an official, remote play PC app, and there's also a third-party app known as Chiaki that also can do PlayStation Remote Play with some authentication tokens that you can get from your PlayStation account.
Right.
And so some of these videos show that PlayStation Portal doesn't have the best experience on the market, essentially, which is, I'm sure, disappointing for some people who've purchased this thinking they were getting the best possible remote play possible, period. And so I've seen the video. I've noticed a difference. I don't think it's massively significant. I think most people probably wouldn't notice it unless they saw this video. And I have looked for it while I've been playing it, and I do kind of see it. They're almost like these little micro judders or stutters, but you really do have to be looking for it. But if you're not looking for it and you're just playing, I don't think you see them. It doesn't seem to get in the way of like inputting controls. But hopefully it is something that can be addressed with a patch to the device, a firmware update. Because, I mean, you really would think that Sony's first-party remote play solution would be the best.
Right.
Yeah.
So I understand, like, what you're talking about with the stutter and stuff. It's not something I noticed, and watching this comparison video, I still don't notice it that much, really.
I mean, to me, it looks way smoother. Like, it looks, if you're looking at the Portal first, it looks very acceptable. But then when I look at the other device that's also replaying the same exact moment in the same exact spot in the same game, it looks significantly smoother to me.
Well, so the device that is being compared to the PlayStation Portal is the Ally Chiaki, which
It's the Asus ROG Ally, which is running Chiaki.
Right, okay, gotcha. I read that's a $700 device.
So, yeah, like I said, it's a portable Windows PC.
Right,
But,
yeah.
I mean, they're both still just streaming video.
Right.
They're running Netflix,
Right, but hardware is still used to do that.
I think so, but is that not disappointing then? That if this is a hardware issue, that's an even bigger problem. Because then that means that Sony cheaped out.
Right. Well, I mean, the device is cheaper.
Right. But, like, still, I mean, Sony's probably making a profit on this thing on day one.
Oh, sure.
I would imagine. I don't know how big of a margin they're looking at. But for something like this, they're probably looking at, like, 100% profit. So if they're selling this for $200, they're probably making it for $100.
Right.
That would be my guess of what they want from this.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like maybe they could have sprung an extra $10 and got a better SoC on this Android unit,
right?
And maybe we wouldn't be having this problem. If that's the case, like I said, hopefully this is something that they're taking note of, and that they can maybe address for players. Hopefully it is just some kind of glitch in the software that they can fix. If it is a hardware issue, though, that to me is a little disappointing.
I mean, I don't know that I'd call it a hardware issue. It's just less expensive hardware than what is running in the Ally.
Yeah, but that to me is a poor excuse. If that's Sony's like, well, this is cheaper than that.
Right. No, I get it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, they're pitching this as the best place to remote play. Is on our first party device. Right. So
the difference is so negligible to me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I see it when they're side by side. Don't see it so much when I'm just looking at it, playing it myself.
Right.
So, like I said, most players may not even take note of it. But for the players that this does matter to, if Sony can fix it with a software update, I hope they do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of, the reviews for the Portal have been interesting. They've been mixed, I would say. Seems to be that most people, there's a lot of people going, who is this for?
Okay.
Why does this exist? Like, I mean, yeah, it does its job. And, I think I know who this exists for.
Yeah.
This exists for people who probably live in a small space, have one big main TV entertainment area, and other people use this area. And maybe you want a game, but you never can.
Right.
And so now you have this device where you can go in another room, or you can be on the couch while the kids are watching Bluey or whatever. And now you can play on your PS5 and you don't bother anyone.
Right. I mean, I would just go blanket say that it's for everybody who plays their Switch in handheld mode. It's for those people.
Right, but I mean, the Switch is $300, right?
Right.
And you're getting the whole thing for $300.
Right.
This requires a separate $500
it's a different
purchase.
price point.
Yeah.
For
so
the
you have
whole
to spend
setup.
$700
to
use the PlayStation Portal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. No, I get that. But I thought, if we're talking about like demographic of, I get the price point's different.
Right.
But who's going to be using this? It's going to be those people that travel a lot, need it more of a handheld solution to gaming.
Well, like we said, there's issues with traveling with this device.
Right, yeah, there's that. I didn't know about that. But, I feel like I can answer that question. So that's kind of...
So, while reviews have been kind of mixed and confused, the PlayStation Portal is sold out everywhere. There's like these tiny little restocks that'll last like 10 seconds. Some video game person like Wario64 post about, oh, it's back up on Best Buy. Boom, it's gone instantly.
Right.
It's virtually sold out in all territories. It's being sold.
I mean, do we know, this happened with the PS5 itself. How many of these people are scalpers that are just buying out stuff?
I'm seeing them, people try to sell them for about $100 more. So for $300. But if you're a scalper and you're trying to move these for $300, you got to remember that eBay is going to take a 20% cut. And then you have to pay taxes on eBay sales now. If you make more than $600, you have to report.
In a year?
Yeah, in a year. You're required. eBay will send you the form to give to your tax person.
Right.
And so then you're losing another 20%.
Yeah.
So in the end, you're making like $10 profit selling them for $300.
Yeah.
That's not worth it.
No, that's a lot of trouble.
Yeah, no way. Yeah, I don't think it's worth reselling stuff anymore.
No.
Yeah.
If they sold it for more and it was
if they were moving them for $500, and there was demand for it at $500, then okay, sure. Then, so yeah, I don't know that a lot of people are buying these from resellers.
Okay.
I'm guessing Sony was probably, they didn't want to go all in on this. They wanted to sell out, and they're probably really pleased with what happened, that they've basically sold out. They say there's going to be more coming in December, so they clearly have more on the way, but they went a little more conservative. Rather than have hundreds of these things on shelves not selling and then having to discount them to like $100 a year later,
right? Which
was what I was originally hoping for.
Right.
When I first heard about this, I was like, I'll pay $100 for this, but no way in heck am I paying $200.
Right.
So, I guess it's a success by all marks so far. I mean, if people who bought one are happy, for the most part, it seems that way. There's some people disappointed about some of these issues that it's experienced, but, the thing gets a firmware update out of the box, so who's to say there won't be more updates to it?
Right.
And maybe there could even be more features added to it over time as well. I mean, do you think this is something Sony is gonna really go all in on?
No, absolutely not.
I mean, do you think there's gonna be more iterations of the Portal?
Um, yeah, of course that depends on the longevity of people playing with
Right,
them.
using it, yeah, because
Right.
I'm sure they're monitoring like
Right. Oh,
how many
you
people are
bet.
engaging with the hardware. Like,
I
sure, we sold out.
I think a whole big component to this push to be everything be online at all times has to do with data collecting. You know,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
So yeah, they're definitely monitoring usage.
player habits and all that stuff feeds into the
Yep.
machine of whatever they're doing next.
They probably are tracking when you're using a different Wi-Fi than your home network, just to know how many people are playing truly remote. But yeah, if it's that big of a success, I mean, I think what Sony has always wanted to have a handheld device be be a success that's going to continue.
I mean, the PSP was massive.
Yeah,
That
it
thing
was.
sold like over 100 million units.
Yeah, that's a good point. So just having a successful device apparently doesn't mean that Sony's going to keep it alive.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know.
they made a follow up to the PSP. And,
They made a few, and then they went all digital with.
well, I mean, yeah, they made the PSP Go.
Right.
But I mean, like, the true follow up to the PSP is the PlayStation Vita.
Right.
And this isn't a follow up to the Vita.
No,
we
it's
should
not.
be clear. This
Yeah.
is an accessory
It's not,
for the PS5.
And like considering it that, or anybody online considering it that, is gonna be a misdirection.
I mean, you can pretend while you're playing
Right.
it.
That,
You know, you can,
that is
you know?
native. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, and you can be convinced pretty easily that it is, you know.
The experience feels like it.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not.
You know, I mean, there's a part of me, like, how mad are you? Well, are you mad if in 2 years they put out a new, you know, PlayStation Portable 2
Like
or
a Slim or something.
no, they put out like a true new handheld that has this form factor, this experience with remote play, but also has like native games on it or games played locally.
Would I be mad?
Yeah, like, are you like, man, why did I invest in this? Because now there's like clearly a better thing.
Well,
you
no,
know?
because they got it essentially for free.
That's true. You
So-
can't be mad.
Right. But to answer your question, no. 2
I'd-
years from now, no.
I'd be a little miffed, but I'd be happy, period, that Sony was getting back
Right.
into like a second.
I think that would be
ecosystem.
my focus too.
Yeah. I mean, like, if I was someone who maybe didn't have as much extra income, I could see myself being upset. Like, are you for real?
You're right.
You know?
I mean, that's how it goes. They have to try something new,
Right.
and see how it goes.
Okay, so let's say they never put out something new.
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now, PlayStation 6 comes out.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't compatible with PlayStation 6.
Well, it's a PS5 peripheral, and that's
Right.
how I see it.
But then during PS6's life cycle, they never released something similar.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like, what the heck?
No.
No?
No, I mean, I would maybe wonder why,
Right.
but I wouldn't be upset necessarily.
Remote plays. Well, I mean, because, you know, the Vita could do remote play on PS4, and PS3.
You're right.
Whereas this, you know, doesn't connect to a PS4, even though it probably could.
Yeah, they probably could make it. It's
Yeah, I mean, the remote play app works on PS4 and PS5 still,
right. I mean, a PS5 has a PS4 in it.
essentially, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I would hope that if they only ever continue to make this one model of PlayStation Portal,
Mm-hmm.
you notice they don't call it PlayStation 5 Portal.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
They just call it PlayStation Portal.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hope that it continues to be. I mean, it doesn't need anything extra to stream.
Right.
You know.
I mean, if you think about it, now that you mention that, PSVR is not called PlayStation 4 VR.
And it is compatible on PlayStation 5.
Yeah. So this could just be like a new pillar for them of products to
Yeah.
use Nintendo's
Pillar
term.
of products, love it.
You know,
Well, if we didn't already have a name for this episode, that's
right.
what I'd call it.
Pillar of products. Yeah.
Dang, that's so good. We need to save that one for something.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? Like the Portal is their streaming device line of products. Their PSVR is their virtual reality line of products. You know, so I could see it kind of being that. You know, like just a line of products
Right.
that are it's sort of independent from their console line. You know. But yeah, that's a good observation that they didn't put a 5 in the name.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. So hopefully this is something that lives on. Even if they make more form factors of the Portal, maybe they'll just continue to be forwards compatible. I mean, the PlayStation 5 probably has 5-6 years in it before we even see a hint of a PlayStation 6, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think, every generation seems to get longer and longer.
It seems to be about 10 years for Sony.
Nowadays, yeah.
I
mean, Nintendo's Wii U cycle was very brief.
It was very brief.
Well, 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty brief.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They had to move on.
But I think Sony consistently has been about 10 years.
Well, PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4 came out in 2012. And it's 2023, and
oh yeah, that's true. I guess PS4.
There's a big cross-gen gap.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, geez, the PS2 was still being sold well into and manufactured well into the PS4's life.
Right. And I could be wrong about this, but I think PS2 games were still being published.
Yeah.
At least expansions for Final Fantasy 11.
That and Just Dance, things like that, and
right. FIFA, yeah.
I mean, like the PS2 was like, especially in countries, that are poorer,
right?
Don't have access to the latest game consoles. Like the PS2 lived for so long.
It did, yeah. It did.
And I feel like the PS4 is now going to be sort of the new PS2.
In a way, it kind of was that way. Yeah.
I mean, most games that are releasing for PS5 also have a PS4 version still. It's uncommon for that to only be a PS5 game.
It's weird how that kind of correlates with backwards compatibility of the follow-up.
Yeah. I mean, like sometimes you'll see like, oh, the PlayStation 4 version is cheaper than the PlayStation 5 version. It's like, well, you'd be missing out on some enhancements if you bought the PS5 version over the PS4 version.
Right.
It's like, well, I just want to play the game. What do? I pay less,
right?
Or do I pay a little more to get the premium experience that I bought the new console. I probably want the best experience.
Which is kind of weird when we're talking about PS4 and PS5, because PS4 also had the PS4 Pro that gave it some upscaling and some enhancements, and then PS5 is an enhancement on those enhancements in a way.
And we'll probably be getting a PS5 Pro in the next year or two,
right?
I guess. I don't know that I don't think I'll jump on that.
No, I don't even think I'll be jumping on the Slim right now.
Oh, no. I mean, I would only buy the Slim if I didn't already have a PlayStation 5, I guess.
Right.
Now, pretty soon, players won't have a choice. As soon as the old stock is gone, the only PS5 on the market is going to be the new Slim model.
Right.
With the detachable disk drive that we know has issues now due to its internet required
it's
connectivity.
Like it's checksum server connection.
Okay, so we're gonna leave off from the Portal now, right?
Yep.
We're done? Okay, cool device. I look forward to giving mine some action over the Thanksgiving break I've got going on.
I'm enjoying it a lot.
Cool. And you'll have to report when you're back in 2 weeks what it was like.
Being out of state.
Yeah,
actually a long distance away.
Maybe the carrying case shows up before.
I hope so.
Leave. I don't know though.
What
day do you leave?
The 26th.
Is that
Sunday?
Oh, this Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say probably not.
Yeah, I doubt it. I'm gonna have to just grab another bag. of some sort.
some kind of padded. All right, so we are at the 2 hour mark, so I think we're just gonna do one story, and then we'll wrap this episode up because we have to record another episode right after this. So we're going to talk about another handheld device.
All right.
Valve announced the new Steam Deck OLED model. So what is the Steam Deck? The Steam Deck came out about 2 years ago. It's a handheld console, you could say. It runs a custom operating system. It can be dual booted with Windows, but you have to do some tinkering to get that working. But it's essentially Valve's own console that runs Steam OS and runs games purchased on Steam.
Right.
So this doesn't play discs. You can't install... Well, I guess you might be able to install a game via a disc if you boot it into Windows or something.
Right. There's no removable media on this thing.
Exactly. You'd have to plug it in via USB, which it does have some USB ports.
Right.
And so this device was made to essentially be a portable way to access your PC games. And it was, by all accounts, a pretty good success. It had some issues, short battery life, kind of a subpar screen. They cut some corners to get the price where they wanted it to be. But the OLED model, which has a brand new OLED screen, which means blacks are really black, colors really pop.
Right.
They're going to be more vibrant.
It's all around the preferred type of screen. Even on the Vita, that was the preferred.
Yeah, the Vita launched with an OLED in 2011, I think it was. And that was revolutionary. The Switch got an OLED model mid-life cycle, like 3 years ago now, I think, or 2 years ago. And now the Steam Deck is getting an OLED model. So what's changed? The screen has increased in size by just a little bit. It's now 7.4 inches. It has the same resolution. It's now compatible with the very new Wi-Fi 6E, which is like a 5G internet, Wi-Fi connection. Now 6E is the next evolution of that. So that can help if you have a really new router. It can help with download speeds and things like that, which the Steam Deck was known for taking a really long time to download games. And smoother online play due to it being Wi-Fi 6E compatible. It also has a bigger battery. Depending on the game you're running, Steam estimates, or Valve I should say, estimates that you'll get 3 to 12 hours of playtime compared to the 2 to 8 hours of playtime of the original Steam Deck. Part of this is due to the OLED screen, which are far more battery efficient than an LCD screen is.
I don't even know why companies use LCD.
It's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. OLED screens are significantly more expensive. If you go to the store at Best Buy and you compare an LCD and LED screen to an OLED screen, the price jump goes like up $1,000. Like you can get smaller OLED screens for another $50 or so. But yeah, when you start getting big, like it's crazy how much the price jump is. It more than doubles in a lot of cases.
Gotcha.
The onboard APU is also more energy efficient. This is it doesn't have a CPU, it has an APU. So it runs a little differently than like a PC would. The power supply is the same. It does come with a longer cable, which is nice. It has a bigger fan, updated thermals, which means the unit will run a lot cooler. The unit is also 30 grams lighter, only a 5% difference.
Yeah.
No one's really going to feel that, I don't think.
That can make a big difference, though, I feel.
I mean, I guess I would feel like I would need to see 10 or 15% before I'd really... If I had them both in each hand, I don't know that I'd be able to tell which one is lighter with only 5% difference.
I mean, when you're playing.
Yeah, like long term, if you're holding it up right, that may keep you from getting 5% less tired.
Right.
Before your hands are like, I need a break.
Yeah.
and it now has a 90 hertz refresh rate, up from 60 hertz. So it can now do like 90 FPS. You know, PC gamers are known for
wanting their
FPS to be as good as it can be. So that's definitely improved. And like a lot of phones nowadays do 90 and 120, and when you compare 90 to 120 next to 60, it's so apparent.
Oh yeah. You have to kind of compare, but 60 next to 120 especially, you can really tell.
It's like night and day. Yeah. You know, I remember when the whole 60 FPS thing kind of started like a decade ago. Mm-hmm. People were like, I don't see a difference, you know, like, or it doesn't make any difference to me. And like, I don't know how people could say that, because it's
30 to 60 is a big
that's
difference.
Noticeable as well.
That's the most noticeable.
Like the easiest way to see that, if you own Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, mm-hmm. if you're playing multiplayer with more than 2 people, so 3 or 4 people on a local system, the game runs at 30 FPS. Mm-hmm. If you're playing in solo, it runs at 60. Right. So I encourage you, go play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe by yourself, and then immediately switch to a multiplayer match afterwards, and it feels like you're playing like a slowed down version of
on
the game.
really, really high octane or fast moving, you know, stuff. That's when 30 really starts to not work.
Yeah.
You know, but I've noticed that too. Games will switch frame rates or lock frame rates depending on different features and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, they have to.
Yeah.
And you know, on console, you know, people thought like PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, finally, all games on consoles will run at 60 frames per second.
Right. Asterisk.
That's not what happened, right. Because instead of game developers tend to prioritize graphics over frame rate for whatever reason. So they'd rather push the visual fidelity further than give people better frame rate. Now we are seeing a lot of people offering options.
It's because screenshots sell.
That's right.
That's, you know.
Yeah. Now we do see more games offering different modes. There's like a fidelity mode. There's like an FPS mode. Mm-hmm. So players are getting more options, almost like they do on PC, where you can fiddle with options to make the performance run better.
I feel like that's almost mandatory on PC in a lot of cases.
Oh yeah, because of all the different graphics cards and, you know, computers that can be used.
Right.
You have to offer that kind of customization.
It's weird to see it on console. I don't know if I've ever played a console game and had that much.
Maybe you just haven't explored the options, but like I know like all the new Spider-Man games from Sony, they all offer like 2 different modes. Like you can play fidelity mode or like a smooth
30 frames a second.
Yeah, and you know it feels fine until you turn on 60 FPS, and then swinging around New York City is like, whoa, you know, it feels so much better. But then you are losing some of the post-processing effects and things like that,
reflections and water effects.
Yeah, you're now getting like very generic reflections and not like authentic real ones.
Right.
And so there's 3 variants of the OLED Steam Deck. There is a 512 gigabyte model, which they're selling for $549. There's a 1 terabyte model with anti-glare screen coating for $649. And then there was a limited edition 1 terabyte transparent variant with anti-glare screen coating for $679. So you're paying $30 more to get the transparent model, meaning that like you can see the internals of the system, kind of like one of those old school Game Boys or N64s.
Right. Game Boy Color and
stuff. So these went on sale last week. I know it was a bit of a mess trying to order one initially, but my understanding, last I checked,
we're talking just about the limited edition?
No, all 3 models went on sale at the same time. The limited edition's gone. That one's sold out. Okay. But you can still place an order right now for the 512 and the 1 terabyte. They met demand, and now you can still just order one and get it within a week or so.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So that's pretty cool. You know, you're used to seeing new products sell out and then be unavailable or really hard to find for a long time. Mm-hmm. So it looks like Valve prepared for that. You know, they knew there'd be demand and they met it, and now throughout the holidays people will still be able to order one, you know, even if they weren't there the second it became available.
So, those price points.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at that and wonder what maybe the Switch successor is going to look like in terms
Yeah,
of price.
yeah. I don't know if that's a fair comparison because as much as I agree that this is a console, it is playing PC games. You
Yeah.
know, it is. It's not. It's I don't know. It's not. I feel like it's not subjected to that sort of price point war that goes on. I use the word war loosely.
Sure.
That goes on among the big three console,
Right.
giants. So it just I don't know. I can understand. I can understand the three models given that context, and I can also understand the prices being.
I mean, really, the only difference between the models is the storage space.
Yeah,
the only significant difference.
Anti-glare screen coating,
Which is maybe something you might not even want because I've heard the anti-glare coating affects the image, like the OLED image. Like you're getting like kind of more muted colors because of that coating.
Really?
So I heard some people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna go for the 512 gigabyte one and just upgrade the storage myself."
Oh, okay.
Rather than go for the anti-glare one.
So how do you know how like customizable these things are? Are they at all? Or
I mean they're customizable in terms of you can upgrade the storage.
okay.
And I don't think you can. I mean, if you're a tinkerer,
Yeah, okay. I'm not talking about like
no, your average consumer, the only thing they're going to be able to do is upgrade the storage.
Okay. Gotcha.
I mean, I guess someone could apply anti-glare screen coating on their own if they were really careful.
Right. That's just I'm not talking about like mods, you know. I'm talking about like
Yeah,
you can't open it like
it's
a PC.
similar to a Switch where you can plug in an SD card,
right?
You know, that kind of a thing.
Okay. I want one.
Of course.
I don't play
hey,
enough.
Order it and maybe it shows up for free again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let me just risk $550. But seriously though, I don't know that I play enough Steam to justify buying one of these.
For me, it's like I think it looks cool and that's awesome, but it's like, do I really need one more thing that I'm like I bought for the first time in a long time. I bought an Xbox this generation. I've barely used it.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed to say that because it's hard enough gaming between my Switch and my PS5.
Right.
And I don't consider the Portal like a new thing because it just lets me play my PS5 games.
Again, it's a periphery.
Right. I don't consider that like a new, thing. And then I have old consoles that I want to play games with too, you know?
Right. Same.
And so like if I were to get a Steam Deck, much like my Xbox, I think it would sit there.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer because there's so many great like indie games that you can't find on console still that you can find on Steam.
Right, yeah, that's true.
So I mean it would be like a great device, but I haven't invested anything into the Steam ecosystem. Like I don't have a bunch of games purchased.
I do have a small list of games I've bought.
I know some people have like thousands of games on Steam because they like constantly like they do these crazy sales where games are like
summer sales are
like
crazy.
$1 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So people just like buy just in case they ever might want to play it someday.
Yeah.
Or they do these like charity humble bundles or whatever where there's like, oh, get 50 games for $20, you know.
Humble is a separate company with their own
right, but they usually have Steam codes
right.
that like you can apply.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not for me. I remember when the Steam Deck first came out, I said, no, I would want an OLED screen. And now they have one with an OLED screen.
Yeah.
And so for the first time I was like tempted to even consider it.
Right. If I was to get into something in the future like EVE Online or something like that and I'm just playing that, I might consider buying something like this.
Yeah.
Because that would be preferable for me.
Right.
As a console gamer, having a more console experience.
Right.
And that's interesting that you have a device now that offers a truly console experience to the world of PC gaming.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is the first thing that's ever done that.
No.
But it's...
They're poised for success with this.
I think so.
Like, this is going to stick around.
Yeah.
It's almost going to become a fourth player in the bit space, I think.
The Oculus Quest or MetaQuest, whatever now, that thing plays games natively. And
yeah, one of the models does.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't have to have a PC hooked up to it, which is impressive.
Right. That's a VR experience, but
yeah,
still a kind of
it's
a
a
console.
standalone thing, with its own store.
Right.
Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, I can't.
No.
And the other thing that kills it for me is there's no physical games. You're basically going all in on a digital ecosystem.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to trust anyone with the digital ecosystem, it's going to be Steam. More than Nintendo, more than Microsoft, more than PlayStation. I trust Steam to be around far longer than I do any of these other three companies protecting people's digital purchases and making them forwards compatible.
Yeah, that's because Steam never comes up with a new eShop.
Right. It says, that one's gone now.
Right.
I mean, PlayStation and Microsoft seem to be going that way where their old content is accessible on the newer platforms, and hopefully they stay that course.
It seems like in Nintendo's case, at least, they want you to buy it again, though.
I think that's going to change. They've been saying stuff. They've been talking about how the eShop and the Nintendo account are going to stick around moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my hope that you'll be able to download and play things that you've purchased previously digitally and hopefully physically.
Right. It seems like that has to be the inevitable way to go. It's just not viable to have to rebuy virtual console, re-releases every generation.
Yeah, I don't think. I think Nintendo's going to go that direction too. We've yet to see them do it ever, but I feel like we're about to for the first time. Be like, hey, all of your stuff is forwards compatible, including digital purchases. They've had forwards compatibility with their games, their physical games, before in certain instances, but never digitally, really.
Right.
I mean, with the 3DS and DSiWare, you could import your DSiWare purchases, but it was like a backwards process to get it done. Like, you had to make two different accounts and connect them and synchronize them, and it wasn't just log in and there everything is.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was an afterthought.
Yeah. Well, we had some other stuff we wanted to talk about, but I think we're going to have to move it over to the next episode.
Which we will be recording right about now.
Immediately after this one. And the corn guy is here, right on cue.
Right on cue.
I don't know if the mic picks him up. I hope he does. He's like the third unofficial member of the show at this point.
Last time I spot checked the last episode, I didn't hear him, but we were talking about him.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're going to sign off.
End transmission.